Usury and its Islamic and interreligious dimensions. Usury or excessive interest is prohibited in all of the holy books, including the Torah, Bible, and Quran, for similar reasons. All of the great prophets, including but not limited to Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, prohibited excessive interest as it was seen as a mechanism to exploit the poor and actually steal their wealth. Usury is an unproductive means of earning income, leading to societal decay, exploitation, and warfare, among other things. In Judaism, usury is prohibited amongst Jews themselves in Exodus, Leviticus, and Deuteronomy. It is clear that the Torah prohibits usury between Jews. However, in Judaism, the interpretation of the Torah, or the oral Torah, carries more weight than what is clearly written in the actual Torah, as Judaism is an interpretive tradition. Therefore, in order to analyze these few passages about usury in the Torah, one would have to examine the Mishnah and possibly the Gemara and the Midrash, amongst other things. The written Torah is the primary source of Judaism, transmitted from God to Prophet Moses on Mount Sinai. However, there were gaps in the Torah which needed explanation, especially to connect the words of the Torah to modern-day life, as Judaism is also an ethos, or spirit, of the Jewish people. Therefore, sages interpreted the written Torah into an oral Torah and formulated the Mishnah and Gemara, Talmud, and Midrash, which have just as much, if not more, clout than the written Torah, and is also considered the Word of God. Although the written Torah, as a physical object, has greater iconic significance, Jewish life, especially halakhic life, is much more based on the oral law than on the written law. According to Meir Tamari, it is quite clear that almost all authorities follow the following Mishnaic ruling permitting interest-bearing loans involving non-Jews. It is not permissible to receive assets for the purpose of operating with them. For example, sheep given to a shepherd under condition that the owner and shepherd share in the wool, lambs, and milk, with responsibility, where the full responsibility in case of theft or death of the flock falls on the receiver from a Jew, since this is interest. It is rabbinic interest, according to Maimonides, since the owner has no share in the risk. Other authorities, like Tosafat, see this as ribbit midiareta, as the profit accrues to the shepherd, who pays a fixed sum annually to the owner for the use of his capital. It is permissible, however, to accept such assets from a Gentile. It is permitted to borrow from Gentiles and to lend to them interest-bearing loans. This ruling also applies to a Gertoshav, a Gentile who lives in the land of Israel and accepts the 7 Noahide laws. Tamari says that the halakha distinguishes between that interest forbidden directly by the Torah and that which is forbidden according to rabbinic law. Tamari explains, although both of them are forbidden to Jews, the religious implications of the former are more stringent. In terms of the first category, the Torah is understood to directly forbid loans in which the recipient is liable to pay a known sum for the use of money. This is known as apportioned interest. In terms of rabbinic interest, the easiest example to cite is the hire purchase installment plan system. In this case, Reuven does not formally loan Shimon $1,000. However, he sells him goods that are valued at the time of sale at $1,000 and gives him 60 days credit. In exchange for this credit, Shimon will pay Reuven an additional agreed-upon fee over and above the purchase price. In actual fact, however, Reuven is receiving a payment in exchange for waiting for his money, which is in the economic sense considered interest. Halakhically, too, this is considered interest. Yet it is distinct from that defined by the Torah, and so is considered rabbinic interest. The levying of rabbinic interest is forbidden between Jews. One Mishnah says, moreover, Hillel used to say, a woman may not lend a loaf of bread to her neighbor unless she determines its value in money, lest wheat should rise in price, and they are found to be engaging in usury. In Islam, this can be seen as a kind of riba, usury of excess, or riba al-fadl. If the woman wants to avoid usury, she should determine the price of the bread in money at the time of delivery to avoid riba of excess, in case the price of wheat should rise, and she might receive back something worth more than what she lent. Islamically speaking, if there is exchange among the same species of ribawi goods, it has to be done on the spot and should be of equal quantities. If the quantities exchanged differ, even in spot transactions, then it will constitute riba of excess, riba al-fadl, or surplus riba. Rules of riba of excess also prohibit exchange of dissimilar quantities of a genus with different qualities, such as exchanging 1 unit of high-quality dates with 2 units of low-quality dates. According to Visser, there is a ban on exchanging, for example, 2 low-quality dates for 1 high-quality date, even if it is permitted to sell the low-quality dates for money and use the receipts for buying a high-quality date. Zuhaili says that surplus riba is the sale of similar items with a disparity in amount in the 6 canonically forbidden categories of goods: gold, silver, wheat, barley, salt, and dry dates. It is the violation of the equal for equal rule in spot transactions of the same goods of a particular genus. Zuhaili explains that this type of riba is forbidden in order to prevent it being used as a pretext to committing credit riba, such that a person sells gold, for example, on credit, then pays back in silver more than the equivalent of what he had taken in gold. To avoid riba, the commodity has to be exchanged with some other genus and then traded with the desired commodity, high-quality dates with wheat or silver, and then wheat or silver with low-quality dates. Narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri and Abu Huraira, Allah's apostle appointed somebody as a governor of Khaybar. That governor brought to him an excellent kind of dates from Khaybar. The Prophet asked, "Are all the dates of Khaybar like this?" He replied, "By Allah, no, O Allah's apostle, but we bartered 1 saw of this type of dates for 2 saws of dates of ours, and 2 saws of it for 3 of ours." Allah's apostle said, "Do not do so, as this is a kind of usury, but sell the mixed dates of inferior quality for money, then buy good dates with that money." Either the woman should give the bread a monetary price upon loaning it, or exchange the bread for money and then give the money as a loan. As I have demonstrated, the concept of riba corresponds and correlates between the Abrahamic religions, and this connection deserves to be explored further. In Christianity, many people remember in the Bible when Jesus smashes the moneylender's stalls. Why was Jesus so vehemently opposed to usury? Precisely because it was a tool being used by the rich to exploit the poor, turning the poor into slaves, and served as a way for the money-lending class to usurp the wealth and land of the people. Usury is mentioned in the Bible at Kings, Nehemiah, Psalm, Proverbs, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, St. Matthew, St. Mark, and St. Luke. Thomas Jefferson famously said, "If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." This is a powerful statement by one of the founding fathers, who was known to have studied Islam. In modern times, if the private banks print money and then loan it out at interest, the people will not only become slaves to corporations and other entities, but they will also wake up homeless on their own land, according to Jefferson. In fact, President Kennedy tried to issue silver certificates printed by the government as currency in the USA, but was unsuccessful. In addition, if private banks print and lend money at interest, the earth will become a playground for war profiteering, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. On the one hand, moneylenders will become richer from pitting people against each other, including the people of the book, while humanity will be distracted from the fact that they are being turned into slaves. The only way out is to build a financial system which does not transact in usury. It would also be helpful if the people of the book, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, united in this cause. According to Dr. Muhammad Hanif, it is the responsibility of all true believers in God, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, to give up interest-based transactions from their personal lives immediately and input their energies collectively to design, promote, and implement a financial system free of interest. In Islam, the Quran uses harsh language concerning the prohibition of usury, but in my opinion, this is because those who utilize usury to exploit the masses are actually engaging in a type of war against humanity. In addition, it is stressed in the Quran to relieve the debts of others, similar to the Bible. Although the Bible emphasizes the usurpation of land and wealth and the imminent possibility of slavery for the people, the Quran focuses on the hellfire and warfare against those who engage in usury. You can find verses on usury in Surah Al-Baqarah. Here's one example. The hellfire is reserved for those who engage in usury. Trade is permitted, but usury is prohibited. One should earn one's living through a productive activity which fuels the economy and economic growth. Islamic finance has developed various modes of finance without usury and based on profit and loss sharing. In contrast, in interest-based financing, the creditor and lender do not engage in profit and loss sharing. In an interest-based loan, the creditor receives a fixed rate of return no matter how much profit or loss the venture makes. If the venture makes a lot of money, the creditor receives a fixed rate of return. It would be more just if the creditor shared in the profits rather than just receiving a low fixed rate of return in the form of interest. If the venture makes a loss, the creditor still receives a fixed rate of return and the debtor bears the risk of the loss. It would be more equitable if the creditor shared in the loss rather than receiving an abnormally high rate of return in the form of interest. If ye do it not, take notice of war from Allah and His Messenger. But if ye repent, ye shall have your capital sums. Deal not unjustly, and ye shall not be dealt with unjustly. Here it is said that Allah will wage war against those who engage in usury. Again, such harsh language may be being used so as to emphasize the possibility that money lenders are actually waging an economic war against the people. If the debtor is in the difficulty, grant him time till it is easy for him to repay. But if ye remit it by way of charity, that is best for you if ye only knew. Canceling debt is also rewarded, and is emphasized similar to that in the Bible. It is better for you if ye only knew. And fear the day when ye shall be brought back to Allah. Then shall every soul be paid what it earned, and none shall be dealt with unjustly. And fear the day when ye shall be brought back to Allah. One shall be judged, and the book of deeds shall be opened. It is interesting to note that one shall be paid what one actually earned while on earth. I wonder how he was aware that people would be exploited through the wage-earning system, where people receive a wage rather than the value added to the work product and do not share in the profit with the owners of the means of production. Usury can be found in a few other surahs, including Surah Al-Imran, Surah An-Nisa, Surah Al-Rum, Surah Al-Rum again. What is the benefit of financing Islam without interest? Taqi Usmani says that every financing in Islam creates real assets. Taqi Usmani says, it is known, on the other hand, that interest-based financing does not necessarily create real assets. Therefore, the supply of money through the loans advanced by financial institutions does not normally match with the real goods and services produced in the society, because the loans create artificial money through which the amount of money supply is increased and sometimes multiplied without creating real assets in the same quantity. This gap between the supply of money and production of real assets creates or fuels inflation. Since financing in an Islamic system is backed by assets, it is always matched with corresponding goods and services. Thomas Jefferson, who noted the inherent dangers of allowing private banks to print and loan out money at interest, would most likely agree that the Islamic financial system should be studied to create a new financial system for America and possibly the world without interest. When banks print and loan out money at interest, humanity is at danger of imminent slavery and becoming pawns on the stage of divisive war profiteering. When existing in a financial system where one person's gain is another person's loss, and where people are admired for making the zero-sum financial killing to gain wealth, the side effects might include death and destruction for the planet and its people. Conclusion. Similar themes of the evils of exploitation and poverty and the hopes of justice and mercy parallel each other in the sacred texts. Transacting in a financial system based on interest leads to the creation of an elite wealthy class whom exploits the masses to gain wealth at the expense of the majority of humanity through a means of unproductive labor. This has deleterious consequences for the people of the earth, as we have seen in the case of slavery, debt bondage, warfare, and war profiteering, and the destruction of the planet. The momentous occasion is upon us where we now have the opportunity to encourage collaboration between Jews, Muslims, and Christians to cooperate based on the teachings of their respective religions to study, discuss, and formulate modes of interest-free finance for each other and the world. The end.